like to welcome the media for being very supportive fourth estate to our cause. In the first place, allow me to recognize the MCCs that are around. Allow me to recognize the senior MPs that are around also, and my colleague, Mpika, I think you have to talk. You should not just be playing with the phone. Thank you so much. We have not had pressure for some time, and I think you know that one of the reasons is that we are still in the mourning period, where we have lost our former president, who is not yet buried. And I think, given that background, allow me to start with observing a moment of silence before we start calling on different speakers. Can we observe a moment of silence? Thanks so much. Having observed a moment of silence, you allow me that we have a number of issues that have accrued ever since we had our last presser. We have issues to do with land. There's an act that has come before Parliament, which the Farmers Union, among other stakeholders, have rejected. We have the audit report on different issues that of the year ending 31st December 2024. That has got different issues that are supposed to be addressed. We also have the report on the 8th National Development Plan that captures the underscores that we are supposed to talk about. We also have some of the political issues that we are supposed to react to that are coming out of some leaked audios that has to concern with the political party we come from, that is PF. We also have ongoing matters to do with BU10 that is still in the gray areas that have not been attended to, and we will also do with other related matters. At this point, allow me to call upon Honorable Shuangandu MP that is going to address issues of food security. As you may know that there was a report, there was actually a statement from the Minister of Agriculture who talked about how we are seated, especially the food security to do with maize, and what stocks they will buy, what stocks will remain open to the market, and so forth. And I think we have also seen that there are contradictory statements that are coming from FRA. They will do a statement today, tomorrow is an apology, and then there is also the position of the minister. There is also another position of the president, who also ascribed that he had already looked for market. So we need to harmonize these factors. Honorable Kampiongo, sir, you can attend to that particular issue.
Thank you so much. Our moderator, Honorable Fube, MP, and I want to thank honorable colleagues that are here for this important engagement with our citizens. I also want to thank you, the media, for the time and commitment you have shown to this program, where we interact with the people as their representatives on matters that could have been tabled in Parliament and the matters that could be hanging. The issue of food security is one matter we have tabled over and over here in this room where we are meeting. And I won't waste time, but just first of all, express our concern regarding the disorganized manner in which government is handling the grain marketing across the country. You may wish to know that the food that we consume, especially the staple food of Ushima coming from maize, is mainly grown by our small-scale farmers. And these small-scale farmers, for those who are rural area rural MPs, are very important and very critical. We are coming from a season which was difficult. We had drought, the harvest was poor, and what drought followed the reckless decision that was made by government to export the maize that was in storage, because every other time FRA who are strategic, who are responsible for strategic hoarding of maize, have always kept some food. Now, we had the minister coming to Parliament, but prior to that, we had pronouncements coming from FRA through their board chairperson, who informed the nation that they were going to export 1 million metric tons of maize from the projected harvest of about 3 million metric tons. That statement was reversed. What followed was the minister coming to Parliament to inform us that FRA is only going to procure about 500 metric tons of maize. And going with that, they have put a condition that for those farmers, small-scale farmers who are beneficiaries of FISIP, Farmer Input Support Program, they must sell not less than 10 bags of maize to FRA in order for them to be eligible to access farming inputs under the FISIP program. Now, we all know that even if we got all the beneficiaries of FISIP put together, you find that they will have maize in excess of 1 million metric tons, small-scale farmers alone. So the questions we have been asking the minister is, one, what is going to happen to those farmers who are beneficiaries of FISIP, who might not have chance to sell their maize to FRA? What will happen? Because everybody is aware the late start of procuring maize, especially in Northern Province, where they were saying the moisture content is still not acceptable. People are sleeping in the cold for more than 2 weeks, waiting for FRA to procure maize. And they cover long distances to move their produce to these satellite depots. So you can imagine a farmer staying at satellite depots for 2 weeks, only for FRA to come and tell them that they've exhausted the 500 metric tons which they were funded to buy. What will happen? Abalimi benda ama distances ayatali okutwala inyanja shabo pama satellite baikana no papi no kulapembera wa FRA okitenyanja. Nombo muntu aikale milungu 2 na 3 okupembera wa FRA bese bashitenyanje ro basa mwatinyanje tatuishita pandmat kwanisha upoto kwatire ndalamu. Now, you see, you cannot describe this as organized confusion. Even when they are talking about exporting part of the maize that has been harvested by our farmers, they are not speaking about the mechanisms of mopping. How are they mopping this maize? And then why should people think of exporting maize instead of exporting products which have got value addition already, such as meal meal, sample and other products that come from maize? Why should we be thinking like that? Now, you can imagine the minister is saying only 500 metric tons. It had to take the president who called for some stakeholders and the grain marketing groupings to say, no, you have to buy 1 million metric tons. What kind of government are we dealing with? What message are we sending to the farmers? Because if the policy is clear There's no need to have all these different positions coming from, different authorities. So, we had good rains and they've harvested, even under difficult circumstances, even where they didn't have proper inputs given to them. They've managed at least to harvest. So now you have got unscrupulous small businessmen who are mopping maize from the small-scale farmers and are jumping the queue to sell maize, and they're colluding through corruption with those people that are selling at the satellite depots. In the end, the people who are suffering are the poor farmers. So we call on the Minister of Agriculture to put his act together and do the right thing. Give the information that is correct. No one is setting traps for you like you wanted to portray in Parliament. We just want you to explain so that we can explain to the farmers. Because they're the ones who are suffering day in, day out. Across the country. It's not only in Ishwangandu, it's in all the, go to Petauke, go to Chipata, go where the Minister of Agriculture is coming from. You've only increased 10 kwacha. 10 kwacha. In the meantime, the transport costs for them to move that maize from the production areas to the satellite depots has increased. So let's not give a raw deal to the farmers. 2, let's not disadvantage the farmers that will be found not to have sold maize to FRA, not to benefit from the FISIP program. You should do a waiver on that requirement for the farmers to sell 10 bags, because it might not be their wish that they fail to sell to FRA. So, Honorable Minister Mutoropiri, put your act together. If you have to export, you must make sure you only export when you have got sufficient food stocks. Because you are saying on one hand, the country needs about 2 million metric tons. So if you buy 500 metric tons, how does that add up? So the food security will still be threatened. So that's what I wanted to say, that we are concerned that our farmers vale chula pama satellite depots para vale lala vale ndenta fishing ukusa pama satellite depots bafweni bashishenya nje bwangu baye mukulima bakapembere no mufundo wa fisipu bakwati bakalime a responsibility ya buteko. The last matter I wanted to just touch on is the conduct of Electoral Commission of Zambia. I raised the matter yesterday, and I'm hoping that I'll get a response that will be helpful to address the concerns that we have about Electoral Commission of Zambia. By practice, this time, Electoral Commission of Zambia should be having stakeholder engagement from time to time in order to update all the stakeholders on what they are doing in preparation as they are preparing for the general elections next year. But now we are hearing them making, as if they are a standalone institution. They can wake up and just say, no, today no regalia for the participating political parties who are in alliance, without looking at back where we are coming from, how alliances have operated in this country. We have seen those that are in alliance with the UPND going to campaign in their regalia. Mr. Nevas Mumba, the president for Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, is been in recent by-elections. What does he go wearing? He goes wearing the MMD regalia. If you are just talking about PF, why don't you be heuristic? And this is what happens when you are not engaging stakeholders. You make decisions that will come to haunt you. And people might find it very difficult to accept those decisions. And those who are ranting and saying, no, they are going to beat people, you meet, because if you are quoting lawlessness, you meet lawlessness. But we want Electoral Commission of Zambia to be above board so that the credibility of elections that are going to be held is not in question. Where there is lack of information, it's a breeding ground for anarchy. Those electoral systems we are trying to change, whether it's upgrade, it's important that stakeholders are carried on board. Time is of essence. So it's not, the stakeholders must not be pleading. It's part of your mandate as electoral commission to engage the political parties, to engage non-governmental institutions, to engage the church, mother bodies, and update them of what you're doing. So we shall be waiting for an update through our the Vice President who oversees the portfolio functions of Electoral Commission of Zambia. There have been a number of pronouncements. Probably at that point they can even share on the other issues, the procedures they are going to follow in terms of the processes. We have had complaints emanating from the by-elections that have been held. These are generating a lot of anxiety in our members of the public. So it's important that you meet the stakeholders and face them to explain what is going on. So I just thought I could speak to those two matters. I will leave my colleagues to deal with the other pertinent issues that are unfolding. Once again, I just want to thank you. And I want to assure President Lungu's family, the family of the former head of state, that we are still mourning with them. We are still standing with them in solidarity until the former head of state is put to rest. Yes, people will continue demonizing, but they won't subtract the very fact that President Edgar Chagwa Lungu did save his people to the best of his abilities. And time must be allowed for him to rest in peace. So we shall continue mourning. We shall continue standing with the bereaved family in all they are going through during this period of mourning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kampiongo, for the issues that you have addressed. And we appreciate your call on certain issues. And I'm sure, as you may know, that Honorable Kampiongo has addressed the issue of food security. We are boasting of 3.6 million metric tons. But with the reports that are coming from Ministry of Agriculture, we are all ready to buy 500, leaving the farmers in the court. And where will the 3.1 go? And later on, we find that there was a correction through the window by the president, which is talking about 1 million metric tons, which still remains with a balance of 3.6 metric tons, and the rest remains in the court. And I think Honorable Kampiongo has raised an important issue of saying, yes, we want to talk about raw material and exporting raw material. Why not do value addition so that we export feed? And in exporting feed, it means that we have created jobs for young ones. And we are also supposed to export drinks that are supposed to come from the same maize as byproducts of maize. And many other factors. There are a range of byproducts that can come from maize. But we are all stranded and talking about maize as a raw material when we can produce factors. And he has also talked about the strandedness that we have subjected our farmers in. Farmers have been waiting, and this is cold season, have been waiting on different depots, and they have stranded technically there because the Mushika has not even opened. They have not started buying. We heard that they were talking about moisture content. But you and me know that these are people that said PF failed to buy maize. When PF was going out in August, at a time when the moisture content was not here, I don't know how they expected to buy maize that would have caused aflatoxins. And looking at that, Honorable has also talked about ECZ. The current ECZ is a cantemba, is a branch for UPND. You saw how they did matters in Kawushi and Kwacha. They have continued abusing the laws. They have continued abusing the laws in a manner that they are now even trespassing in the management of political parties. We know that in the past by-elections, especially local government past elections, they have been mentoring in there. And I think there's people that will be in charge of summarizing. Let me not, they will come and talk about this ECZ abusing the law, because the ECZ has taken their roles. They have even abandoned the Electoral Process Act number 35 and the Electoral Act number 25, which they are not following. At this moment, let me call upon Honorable Kafwaya, who among other things is going to address the issues that are area on addressed in the introductory remarks. Honorable Kafwaya, sir.
Honorable Fuve, I would like to thank you for according me the opportunity. Let me recognize my honorable older brothers who are here, and also the media. I think it was appropriate, Honorable Fuve, that you could request to begin this press conference with a moment of silence. And when my older brother, Honorable Stephen Kampyongo, was speaking, he gave his assurance to the former First family that we stand with them in solidarity, and that we continue mourning with them. That, of course, is entirely my position. Maybe just to add that from where I stand, whatever the family decides, that becomes my position. But when you look at this issue, mwebekala chalwe abama yoba Esther, bankashi Yesu batasila, naba echa bakwe bonse. Ubu bwafya bulipo, nga tuwabonfya obuntunse, nga tuwalolesha, iwewe muntu abalume bobe n'abafwa. Efya chitika kuli bamaya ba Esther, abalume babo balifwa. Ifo lili abalungu tuleba monate ni ba president besu, kuli ba Esther balume babo abafwa. Ba Esther ni bamukamfuilwa. Kuli tasila notuwa eche tuwakwetonse. Ni bawishi bafwa, bawishi ababafyele bafwa. So lila mule losha mule vika mwefikansa fya chalo. Lila mule batuwala kumichile cha milandu. Mwishi byati abanenu bali lufyo omuntu abaletere pano sonde. Abanenu bali lufyo omulume. Kwateni ko luse mwechalo. Kwateni ko luse mwechalo. Tetu lufyo omulume abana balufye wishi mwabatuwala kuchile cha milandu. Ati mwishika wiso. Wishika omulume wobe konkanya pofyo kulosha. Chibi sana. It's very painful to the family. You imagine it was you. You lose a partner and the world treats you like this. You imagine it is you. You lose a child and the world treats you like this. How do you feel? Barekele niko bashike umutemu kwa wabo. Ukulingana nefyo balefwaya. Na ukulingana nefyo abebeli umutemu kwa wabo. You see, I just have maybe two issues that I want to comment upon. I think I just leveraged on my older brother Stephen Kampyongo's submission, as well as Honorable Fuve's request for us to begin with a moment of silence in honor of our late President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. May his soul rest in peace. Now, before I address the two issues that I have, I would like to make just a few comments on what I've seen in newspapers, what we have seen on social media and so on. I think I read somewhere where somebody said, don't involve a church in the leaked audio. We are being urged not to involve President Hakainde Hichilema in the leaked audio. You know, that conversation about bribing judges in the foreign land. Now, it is not us who mentioned a church. I think those who are calling for people not to involve a church, they must call those who were having a conversation and ask them to, to withdraw their views. Let them withdraw that HH didn't call the honorable member so many times. let him withdraw that HH didn't direct him to go and see a Friday. So if this AI is the one who was caught and he was directed, why if it were at Tashan? So to learn that it is okay for HH to call anyone. It is okay for HH to call anyone, and if HH calls anyone and the subject of conversation becomes public knowledge, we will talk about it. There was a call that HH made to one provincial minister and one FRA board chairperson. It was recorded, circulated, we heard about it. Somebody can't come and say, Mufumi animo HH. No, to move. But unless it's AI, then we are bound to, to make other judgments. So in this particular case, be sure that it is none of us, none of those who have commented, who are bringing HH in. The HH was brought in by the two people who are having a conversation. So ask them to withdraw. The other thing I want to just comment on is I honor the Vice President's responses this morning on two questions. One question asked by Honorable Francis Kapianga and the other one asked by Honorable Mpankata. I was shocked to hear our honor expressing ignorance on the fact that the former vice presidents are actually on government payroll. But on the other hand, she still said if they are on payroll, it's because they are envoys. So my question is, Mayonga Chakovati, abali pitire pachifulo muli, efe bade basunga kubuteko tamwishi. Nishi nifishi mngaishi bama. It's very bad. Chifulo chacha bu vice president pantu muli. Inchito bale bomba bale yo mule bombako. Elo tusa tumuipisha pa banenu aba pitapari chifulo no tamwishi byati bala fola 80,000 kwacha per month. The main question Mayo is which law is UPND government using to pay those former vice presidents? Since UPND claims to, to be a government of rule of law. So to even Kodifundej, at Yahweh, Niba envoy. Kwadiba envoy in perpetuity. Those who are negotiating, we saw some vice president negotiating the repatriation. Before the negotiation of the repatriation, where were the envoys? Fixed, like Honorable Mpankata put it, 80,000 kwacha per month. Is this the reason why some of the former vice presidents, clean off HH even when it's totally different? It's impossible now to clean him off. It's completely impossible. You can't clean off HH when you think of the hunger that people have, when you think of load shedding, when you think of illicit financial flows, there's the illegal sale of Mopani, when you think about the illegal transfer of the Ndola Doka, it's impossible to clean him off. But you find some vice presidents, former vice president, you'll be shocked. To my 80,000. But I'm just surprised that Mayo, it appears that which Mayo knows. Give her data. You see, the thing is this. When the vice president is unaware of what is happening in government, then you can't account in the assembly, because that is the leader of government business in the house. And then the vice president is also the head of DMMU, disaster management. Don't you know that acting outside of the law to an extent of paying people who are not money that is not supported by the law is a disaster? It's a serious disaster. It squarely falls under the jurisdiction of disaster management. So who is going to manage those disasters? Who is going to account to the people if the vice president can't be informed properly? I urge UPND government, start involving the vice president in what you are doing. She doesn't know anything. But that one may be difficult. If you ask about the 51% shares of Mopani, she will tell you she has no idea. That one I would agree, because even Musokotwani, when he was asked, he said, I feel Kabia Niku justice if you don't come to me. And yet he is a shareholder. IDC. So it's very, very unfortunate. Let me come to my substantive issues. I think I wanted to begin by sympathizing with the Zambian people because of the high cost of living. The cost of living is not improving under UPND. Food prices are excessively expensive, especially for the poor Zambian people. You know, services are so expensive. Look at the cost of fuel now. Look at the cost of electricity, but also coupled with non-availability of electricity. Look at the cost of transport. Now, namwazalanda tuweshenko emitengo ya transport ati wale wesha na 1 quarter, wale 3 quarter, 1 quarter. You say no to arabwesha kona 1 quarter, but pakulu ndefe. It's as if abantu kwatite bantu obomule kwatite bantu. I want to urge UPND, reduce the cost of living for the people. Reduce the cost of living for the people. One way in which you can reduce the cost of living is by ensuring there is more food. This is not the time you can even be getting confused as government in terms of whether you are going to export maize or not. If you have more maize, put it on the market. Make it cheap for people so that you can't even start signing memorandum of understanding or contracts to sell 1 million tons of maize. It's irresponsible. Then it's just like exporting power when you actually don't have enough to give your people. So I'm calling upon you, look at these issues. Do you know, UPND, that these same people who are finding the cost of living so high don't have jobs? Young people don't have jobs. Even old people don't have jobs. You can't even employ volunteers who you promised jobs. They worked for nothing in the hope that they will be employed. During cholera pandemic, or was that an epidemic? They worked, and then you promised them not to allow English, you have not employed them. It's bad how you are treating people, you Zambians. You government of Zambians, the UPND. The UPND is a very, very bad government. Very bad. You have destroyed the country. You have caused pain to the people. You are just doing things as if you are not leading people. You can't treat people like this. Abantu. These people voted for you. They did vote for you. Ngani PF mwapatisha. Rimbi muka tustefe separate wa PF takudi. Bati abantu wapeni fiakudi. Abantu wana tisheni uwekalo. What type of people are you, Kanshwa UPND? Huh? All these things you are doing, you come and add, increase the tax burden for the people. Na abalumendo fe abatuma phone fe mobile money at twakula pokama taxes. Yesterday I was saying ndana na mshanga sela kumonomba at today will come and get taxes. But look what you are doing to those who have money. You have reduced the mineral royalty tax. So for those who are like you, them they must live okay. But who are struggling on a daily basis, you increase the taxes. You need to change. You can't be mistreating people like this. You cannot be mistreating people like this. Ababeni abantu aba nakufipatala takuwa emiti. Mwaya afisa 61 containers of medicine. Abantu dijya nomba badela ndapa 61 containers kusanga fat no mutu wa mipere fe chalo chimbi ba America wampero miti mwaliva. No, what type of people? Listen, do you realize that bantu musunga mwaibo muti? What are the consequences, my friends? The consequences are that by the other to pay you mutiba America number that way chicharo tachaba serious. There's no way to have a pay mutu wa free. But free the shabantu babo baiba. The other ero number bambo kutaka number. Ukutaka they end up with an illegal audit. And no, the president directed. Which law empowers the president to direct an audit? Which law? Okay, yes, he unconstitutionally directed. He directs who? The Auditor General. Auditor General, I had to contract to a PricewaterhouseCoopers. Because everyone knows that Auditor General's work ends up in the National Assembly, and that report has never ended up. Nobody's talking about Auditor General. Now, they are just placing it to PricewaterhouseCoopers. Listen to me. You are still in trouble. There is no way you are going to come out of that. You trapped yourself. That is an illegal audit, and it's going to hurt you. It will hurt you. Whether it starts with the president and goes straight to Pricewaterhouse, he has no mandate to do so. Absolutely no mandate. There is no law which empowers him to do that. If it went to Auditor General, Auditor General's report should come to the National Assembly. It went to law enforcement agencies. Jack Mwimbu told us. You are in trouble. But let me just quickly... now, what I've already said shows that UPND is a very bad government. But if I were to isolate the issues and say, for me, these show that UPND is such a bad government, I would start saying, look at the laws which UPND is actually has enacted and the laws which they are pushing to enact. Bill 7. Such a bad constitutional amendment. Terrible, affecting the people negatively, affecting opposition political parties in a manner you have never seen, and being declared unconstitutional by the Constitutional Court, but the government says if we are going ahead. Constitutional Court here never. The process you used is unconstitutional. Therefore, the product, the Bill 7, is unconstitutional bill, but mwakosa ati no ile through. So why do you enact laws? It's for those laws to be applied and later on interpreted. Who interprets the law? It's a Constitutional Court. Now I'm here about if you mulech tefota kwa imona mkosa fiati mpaka fie tuefika. So who are you doing it for? Who are you doing it for? Mule umfuako na ensoni. Insoni famu wa umfuako ensoni atifia na turechita is beyond being a bad government. This now is showing to the people that we are incapable of listening to advice. We are incapable of doing the right thing. Bill 7 is not the only one. You have brought a bill called the Lands. You are trying to amend the Lands Management Act, where you want the registrar to be cancelling ama title deeds. What do you want to do to this country, Kansh? By UPND? Umuntu alikuwa taka title deed. In the objects of the bill, you can't even say for the following reasons. You can't. You just say, let's empower the registrar to cancel title deeds. So if any of you, my friends, walikuwa taka title deed, walikuwa taka land somewhere, if this bill goes through, the registrar can just wake up and say, oh, you have a title, no, this one is cancelled. So what's the use of the court? What is the use of the court? I'm told that Judge Kuria. Now, you see, if a registrar is given that power, What do you want to do? Is it a case of minerals? You have found minerals somewhere and you want to be displacing people without compensation? Have you found gas in some banks of some rivers where there are title deeds? What is the issue? What is the issue? Nanguma plot ya pereba MMD na ba PF mrefu okupoka abantu. Na ya pereba unipi. So that mpere ama UPND cadres. What is the issue? You are correct. Mupere ya makarage strife if you are msangoy. What is the issue? But that is a law which UPND has brought to the National Assembly of Zambia, in addition to Bill 7. And you see, some other laws have even gone through. Today, as we are talking, it's a sorry sight. You already have the Cyber Crimes Act. You already have the Cyber Security Act. You already have an amendment for the Securities Exchange Commission Act. So the bad laws which are against people, they are against business, they are against the international community standing. And we saw one ambassador even warning citizens from his country that when you travel to this country, remember this law is a very bad law. So letter is against people. They are against people. Now tell me, what are you doing for the people? Because on the economic side, stop even talking. Stop talking. Then on the legal side, all the laws, all of them, there is something hidden. There is something you are trying to do. It's either against the opposition or it's against the people in general. For me, I have never seen such a poor government. From the time I was born, I've never seen such a poor government, which dislikes its people to this extent. Government is supposed to love people. You are supposed to love people as a government. Look at how you have weakened institutions. Institutions now, registra kuti abu kafirero nga mwamutumina phone change office bearers, change. Takwaba. Ngani fia PF fiena katushinga tamfua yo kumfa PF. This is why you are saying PF t-shirt should not even appear in by-elections. Katushinga niba lungu mwapata nanguni PF mwapata. You can't have this level of hatred for just somebody who competes with you on the basis of ideas. Just on the basis of ideas. You can't. Bena takuli ka t-shirt ya PF takuli kufuala ba PF bali umfana mao sampakemu ne faction ya kuyadi abalungu kukwa abalubinda baekala panshi. They agree and they come up with a consent. Katushefa ba judge bali feel sign a consent. Judge na ali feel sign a consent, but bali sominishanya no baba ingira muri ashi bantu bashabamu. Finish one way like judge. Which I feel maybe actually I'm a judges. That is where we are. Ichichalo nacho na ikabona wile chalo ni ba UPND. Abona wile chalo ni ba UPND. At judge kulia. Abona wile chalo chenu ni ba UPND. There is no one else who has destroyed this country. It is UPND. And to have any hope of reconstructing this country, UPND must be booted out of power in 2026.
It should be booted out of power. Now, nakuchirapo twaliumfire kuiva akainde jabali mu opposition malela that when the government fails to look after the people have to put the government out of power. That was his phrase, but I think it's not far from what he believes in, and I would like to believe that that is his personal philosophy when he talks about that. But address some issues and many of them are to do with failure by government to look after the people. Failure by government to look after the people, we all know that Zambia is a representative democracy. But to Salafie in stewardship. Hello, but to Salah in stewardship, you cover to they want to us to be dream facilitators for the people. And dream facilitators take a Salah. Dream facilitators take an employment kuwaiche. Dream facilitator take a shapsana kuwaiche. Dream facilitator take a lawfare on the opposition that is supposed to do checks and balances. Bakafwaya na wala ndapo fotre bomshama funde uko naule chalo. I know that it sounded strong, but what he's talking about is the truth. When he is talking about lawfare, mule ama funda ngale le totale afurisha abantu yo. Cyber law ile onaula ama human rights palanga freedom of expression, freedom of speech, which is linked to freedom of speech, freedom of association and the like. Bakafwaya bali baikata kuna kulika cap 119. Ifoni shtwali mu ruling party. Tatwa ulepo, tatwa pokelepo chipanicha UPND. Ukweba tichaba chipanchesu. Don't send ndati. Technically by research ni president ba political party abiri PF na UPND. Panto mu PF ebalelanda legally ebalelondolola ufilo kwa president. Nangufe no in instaturela ndapali chawinga boasting to be a member a PF acting president. Nuku isaile po ku convention. Which convention upheld him? And this is contributing to lawlessness in the country because Zambian democracy. Zambia have a democracy. Chad people kwebati. Ama political players, they are also co-governors in terms of governing the country. And bakafwaya balelandra muri umusango because ukonkalo lupapulo niba MP bakulunte yali bapele nsambu ukulandra bena Zambia to registrate and also to represent and do oversight. And he is only doing oversight because now monati ama measures ya government. Ale moneka pakuti muno munsala muchalo mulinsala tale pade ko aleya where you find that you are saying you have reduced fuel to from where to where. Fuel diesel yasa ngiro pali 15 kwacha, petrol yali pali 17 kwacha. Ela mwasa nini ka ukutwala kuma 34 kwacha na 31 kwacha. Ela nomba mambo kuwesha within the margin that you increased. And then you are saying na mambo kuwesha. Kuliko na dollar the time PF was leaving power was at 15. We all know that. In August 2021, dollar was at 15. And today you are saying dollar na ibuela na shine uko. Yes, dollar 2020 December yalisani na yafikira pale 22 sana kwacha. 22 kwacha. But the time PF was leaving power, dollar was at 15. And that is a reality. You can check your statistics with Bank of Zambia. Then balela ndapali inflation rate. Yes, inflation rate was high, but abantu bayo yanokunwa. Nendalame mushari mu circulation. Eshe bakafuka batira ndapo. He's saying in dalame mushari mu circulation. You know, instead of mulela ndati kuliko ama economic performance, if you finish my paper at performance indicators, people are starving. We know that malls are closing up because there's no one to buy merchandise at malls. We also know that different people are participating in businesses. And now it's Shereko, mulesangati abalechitama businesses abengi, ma foreigners. Ama citizen participation in businesses has gone very low. Nga mulesanga na ngufeni ku fya Kongo shama ama na nikane ama citizens, it is low. We know that even in the mining sector, we are issuing all sorts of licenses. There's no value addition. Even the report for yesterday, which was talking about national development plan, confirmed no refinery. If a refinery imo mwafiro kupanga. Issuance of mining gold licenses, you issued the 408 amai licenses. Ele patala confusion ukumule shutabaji. What kind of scenario is that? That is what Mr. Kafwaya, Honorable Kafwaya is saying. Now mufirwa. Ono wafirwa kushira ko bambi ba kitako shani ba senda ko bora. Pari kalokashita, allow me to call upon Honorable Tsanga, who is also going to address a lot of failures, most of them legally linked, and umwala wako na customer uturela and that is it, who is always abusing the laws, and I'm sure bala mleka momu mkanda batsanga theni nakabi 7 I'm sure bala kumyako, and I'm sure I also want to take advantage of Honorable Tsanga to say that you should also address the issue that my brother there did address, which is talking about lands and deeds registry. Natumfa wakateka wale landa sana pali ya land ya ku state road. And wale pera instructions kuli new commissioner specifically for state road. Why do you want to give the titles ku state road? State road yali kwa takali abantu ila land wali senda kali. Mwabantu wakwalesa, what is it that we are looking for? Honorable Tsanga, can you pick it up from there?
Thank you very much, moderator. Let me also just start by recognizing our colleagues, the partners of this presser, the Fourth Estate, and also for brevity of time, let me ride on the protocols that have already been established here. I must apologize, I'm running with the flu, but I thought this is very important for me to participate in because the issues that keep piling up, we need to be able to speak to the nation at the earliest available opportunity. I will also start by addressing myself to the issues concerning the Lungu family from quite a different perspective. Firstly, of course, to reassure the Lungu family and also members of the Patriotic Front that we have remained keen in following what is going on around the funeral of the late president and the preparations for the burial that have been disrupted because of the court proceedings that are taking place in South Africa. We are in touch with our colleagues who are instructing the lawyers in South Africa to represent the interests of the widow and the family. We are expectant that the South African courts are going to rise to the occasion and decide the matter in accordance with the justice that that case demands. But like Honorable Kafwaya has said, we just want to continue registering our sympathy and empathy with the family members of the Lungus, starting with the widow herself. She's going through the most excruciating moments of time. We know that people have been going there, some of them as emissaries and some of them on their own to go and speak to that family. I think that what should be at the center of these trips that are taking place going to South Africa is just not going to acquire the deliverable of ensuring that the body of the late president is brought to this country for burial without addressing the underlying problems that this family has had for the last now almost 1 month plus, in trying to resolve the issues, surrounding this issue. We have been with the Lungus for a long time. We can relate to the pain that they're going through. And even when on social media some people are finding it right to spite them, we would like to call on Zambians to be people that are motivated by the philosophy of Ubuntu, to understand what the Lungus are going through right now, to sympathize with them, and to ensure that even when we resolve this matter, we resolve it in a way that suggests that those who are grieving have been given the right to grieve their departed member of the family and also have him buried in dignity. Speaking about what is happening now, the issue of our colleague, Mr. Chavinga, I have noticed that our colleagues rather on the side of the UPND are trying to underplay this. Okay, the first time that audio, after it was authenticated, was leaked and verified by people that put it in the platform, the UPND immediately rushed to the defense that was an AI production. People have pointed out to them that AI does not speak in local languages. It doesn't converse in vernacular languages. And even when they've been told that, they still remained firm on their defense that this was not done by Chavinga and others who are implicated in those stories. In fact, Chavinga himself has even threatened people, including my colleague on the left, with legal action and sometimes even with physical action because of pointing out to what he did, on the occasion of speaking to other people on what his mission was when he went to South Africa. But what is cardinal about all this is what the Vice President today said on the floor of the House. At least the Vice President made an admission that what was happening in there was that Chavinga was making suggestions of what he wanted to go and do when he went to South Africa. Implicitly, that suggests to everybody now that the story that this is an AI story does not hold any water. It is now very clear that indeed Mr. Chavinga and the people that he was speaking with about this issue was something that really took place. The question that we must ask ourselves as Zambians is what are the implications of what Mr. Chavinga was doing? Okay, and I'm grateful myself that the Vice President today was able to authenticate that this story actually took place. Other people have already said it many, many times and at different forums, that this is not something you can dismiss as AI. It is a real story. We now are faced with a situation where we have to address ourselves to what do we need to do now that it's been laid bare that somebody who ranks very highly on the political platform of this country was making those inflammatory remarks against people and suggesting a declaration of intent to go and commit a serious crime in a country in which the disputes regarding whether we should repatriate the remains of a president or not is being considered. Why should we not undermine this? Like I said earlier, this is not an issue we should undermine. Why? Because everybody now in this country knows that Chabinga is the president of a patriotic front who is recognized by the UPND government. If you ask anybody in the UPND government who the president of the patriotic front currently is, they will tell you it's Mr. Chabinga, even when the matters in court are showing clearly that he shouldn't be the president. Secondly, Mr. Chabinga is the recognized leader of opposition by the UPND government in Parliament. Parliament is the third of the three wings of government where we exercise our sovereignty. So he is actually a recognized leader of opposition according to the UPND, not according to ourselves. Because for us, we know how the opposition is supposed to be elected in Parliament. And we've said that so many times. We've told the nation that the keeping of Chabinga in that position is a clear abrogation of the Constitution. But facts as they stand now, even in South Africa, everybody now knows that the person who was declaring an intention to go and commit a crime in South Africa, and a crime as highly placed as bribing a judge in South Africa, is no other than a president of an opposition political party in Zambia and a leader of opposition who's recognized, by the government in Zambia. This is a very serious indictment on the Zambian government. And that's why I agree with Honorable Kafwaya when he says that somebody who wants us to extricate the presidency from these allegations is pointing the finger at the wrong people. We are just people that heard that conversation. We are not the ones who are accusing the president. In that conversation, the president was referred to repeatedly as boss. It was suggested in that conversation that the president made phone calls to Mr. Chabinga, and they had a discussion, and this mission was agreed. So anybody who would like to accuse anybody of telling lies about Chabinga must point to what was happening in the clip. But on my part, as a legislator and as a leader in the political platform of the nation, I think we need to do an introspection as a country. And the ones who must lead us in that introspection are the UPND government themselves. Because now, their agent who is appointed by them has shown clearly a true character of who he is. That he can go and, to another country and suggest means of trying to bring, the body of the late president, including means of which are actually illegal and criminal. So who is supposed to do this in carrying out this introspection? It is the UPND government. In my assessment, what the UPND government must do, apart from just distancing themselves from the Chabinga fiasco, if at all they can extricate themselves from it, I think they need to make a statement. Okay, and that statement, in my assessment, must even include possibly going to apologize to the South African government. That, yes, the person that was making those suggestions, the person who was declaring an intention to go and commit a crime in South Africa, is a recognized political leader in this country, and possibly apologize in order for us to maintain our diplomatic relationship with South Africa. You can talk about judicial corruption in your own country, but when you think that you can have the audacity to export an intention to go and commit judicial corruption in another country, it creates a completely different dimension of problems. So we should not underplay what is contained in that clip. We should not underplay the message that was being portrayed in that clip. We should not underplay the fact that this has a potential to actually damage our relationship with South Africans. And if we are a serious government that we profess ourselves to be, a time has come for us to now reflect on what Mr. Chabinga has done, and not only for what he has done, but even the continued position that he holds as a so-called leader of opposition in Parliament. Because this is a dent not only to the UPND government, it's a dent on Parliament. Where have you heard a leader of opposition in a phone call suggesting to somebody that is going to do everything, including bribery, to achieve what they would like to achieve? And we can sit back like it's an everyday story. This is not an everyday story. We must deal with this matter, and it must be dealt with decisively. The other issue I wanted to deal with, members, is basically the issue briefly, of the selective application of the law in the country. Firstly, it has been spoken here about the consent order. Yes, the Patriotic Front has had problems of leadership for a long time. And I have, on many occasions, at different platforms, suggested to the nation that the UPND is not immune from causing the disruptions that the Patriotic Front has been going through the last 2 years. We have tried to access justice in this country as a way of resolving our problems. And at every opportunity that we've gone to court, we've come back from court shortchanged. Matters that should have been resolved through a judicial process have not been resolved. They've been thrown out on technicalities. We are reasonable human beings. We are adults, and we are experienced political leaders in the country. We decided we were going to engage with our colleagues, and we engaged. And Mao Sampa, to the viewership of the whole nation, apologized to the Patriotic Front, went to our president, and fortunately for him, before the president passed on, he went and apologized to the president, and they had a truce between them. And the party resolved we were going to return leadership to where it belongs. And one of the things we needed to do was prepare a consent order after agreeing that that's how we resolve the matter. Now, I'm a lawyer of more than 30 years standing. When people that are appearing before a court of law decide to resolve their matter using a consent order, the court's hands are tied. There is just nothing the court is going to do apart from append a signature to that consent order to resolve the matter. In fact, we make it easier for the court to resolve that matter, because then we don't prolong the dispute that is before the court. And this is exactly what our lawyers have done, and the lawyers for Honorable Mao Sampa. They have sat in chambers, they have spoken to each other, they have agreed content of the consent order, they have appended their signatures to the consent order, and they filed it in court. The only thing that is required now is for the court to append the signature to the consent order. I don't know what difficulty this has presented to the judicature. But I have the hope and expectation that if the court believes in justice, and I believe it does, this consent order must be signed, because it has finally resolved the issues of leadership in the Patriotic Front. They should now leave it to us as a Patriotic Front to go to the proper convention and convey leadership that is required as we prepare ourselves for 2026 elections. It is not up to the UPND that PF must continue to exist. It's up to the citizens of the Republic of Zambia who would choose either to be members of the UPND and members of the Patriotic Front. A chance is supposed to be given to the Zambians to exercise their freedom if they would like to continue with the political party called the Patriotic Front. But we know that UPND intends to proceed with ruthless impunity to make sure that the Patriotic Front does not come back into existence. But here is the law that they themselves were using. We have recourse to the law to try and recreate leadership in the Patriotic Front. We need to be assisted. And I would like to call upon the stakeholders in the nation, not only political players. I would like to call upon civil society organizations. I would like to call upon the church. I would like to call upon diplomatic corps that are recognized in this country, and even other international organizations that have something to do with the governance and the rule of law. Here is a chance to clean up the problems that this country has been facing for the longest time. Allow us to access the justice system and resolve this matter as we have resolved it through a consent order. If you don't do it, you basically create a systematic breakdown where a political party that is in power can cause another political party to go into extinction by using malice. The other issue I wanted to deal with on the rule of law is basically, there's a story that the press has put the legal committee of the Patriotic Front under pressure to make a statement on the conviction or the confirmation of the conviction of Honorable Kambwili in Kasama, as well as the conviction and sentence of the two ladies who are alleged or who admitted to have been spiting the president regarding the death of the 6th Republican president. And the press question came in the form that there seems to be selective application of justice in this country. That Mr. Kambwili was convicted on the same offenses that somebody in Northwestern Province was threatening the 6th Republican president, that he was going to circumcise him and was going to commit crimes against him. And that person is still walking the streets. that the SG for the UPND, classified or called the Archbishop of Lusaka as Lucifer, and is still walking the streets. And Honorable Kambwili is serving a sentence. And those two young ladies in Chipata, I think in Chipata, who actually admitted to have committed an offense, who should have been entitled to leniency, were sentenced to 4 months imprisonment. Now, this is an issue that we've been talking about for the longest time. We've actually been saying selective application of justice does not help in the long run. It looks very simple because Honorable Kambwili is part of the Patriotic Front, yes. Those two young ladies may not even be members of Patriotic Front, but possibly they don't like the UPND. And you think that they should face the consequences of the merit of their actions. And in the same vein, those who patronize the UPND can commit all manner of offenses and be defended. In fact, people are thinking that even Honorable Chavinga is being defended by the UPND as he continues to commit crimes. My call to those who administer justice in this country, the police, the DPP, the Attorney General, and even the courts themselves, is to remind them that justice is blind. When people begin to see that justice is being selectively applied, people begin to think they should lose respect for a justice system in the country. A justice system that is selectively applied loses its legitimacy in the shortest course. And this is what we are now reaching as a nation. If you have seen, people are now becoming defiant against the law enforcement agencies. People are becoming defiant against the courts. Against the police, sorry. By extension, they are going to become defiant against the courts. What are we going to have at the end of the day? Unbridled injustice, unbridled chaos in the country. So there is a call that is being made by not only the press, by stakeholders in this country, that those who have the responsibility of administering justice must be reminded that justice has no eyes. It does not see. It is blind. And you must apply it regardless of who is involved. Yes, others are very excited that Kambwili is serving a jail term. But in the same country, others are very angry that we've got people like the SG for the UPND who committed a serious crime. That young youth in Northwestern Province who threatened Dr. Lungu before he passed on are walking the streets. Chibokolo, a guy in the Copper Belt who insults every day, is walking the streets. And you think you're going to have justice in a country? This is it's a clear warning to those who are administering justice that something is wrong. You must do something to correct that position. Coming to the issue of Bill 7. So much has been said about Bill 7. Bill 7 has now divided this country. There are those of us who have called out the government on Bill 10. And we're not the only ones as politicians. There are even NGOs who have called out the government. Even those who had supported the government before have realized how evil or devilish Bill 10 is. Bill 10 does not respond to the, Bill 7, sorry, does not respond to the aspirations of the people. Forgive me. Bill 10 still remains embedded in my head for the past 5-6 years. But Bill 7 does not respond to the aspirations of the Zambian people. And we have used reasons before. We have said that this is the only constitutional amendment that is being forced under the throats of the Zambian people. There is no semblance of consultation or stakeholder consultation that was undertaken by the UPND before they brought Bill 7 to Parliament. And when we tried to raise it in Parliament, we were shouted down. People were even thinking we were jealous of the government of the UPND. But we saw the contents in Bill 7. We saw the procedure that is being espoused by Bill 7, and we have argued that that does not accord with constitutional practice everywhere in the world. You can't enact a constitutional amendment in the manner that is being suggested by Bill 7. We were actually supported, or we were found right, rather, by the Constitutional Court when it itself made a decision that this bill is supposed to be stopped because it doesn't comply with what is provided for in Act number 2 of 2016 and doesn't just comply with the constitutional procedure that's supposed to be followed when you have to amend the Constitution. Unfortunately, and for reasons that only UPND can explain, both the government, the president, members of cabinet, and everybody who speaks on behalf of the UPND government, including the Speaker of the National Assembly, are still suggesting to the nation that Bill 7 is alive. What do you intend to achieve if the people on whose behalf you are governing have told you you are wrong? What do you intend to achieve if the court that was created by a constitution itself and the only institution to which we have all ceded the power to make a decision of whether what you are doing is constitutional or not have told you that what you are doing is unconstitutional. Like I said the other time, nobody in the UPND government is going to die if we start this process all over again afresh, and if we carry out a process that fully complies with constitutional demands in amending this constitution. We are not saying don't amend the constitution, but we are saying comply with the constitution when you want to amend it, because that's exactly what the Constitution Act of Amendment of number 2 of 2016 suggested we're supposed to be doing. To think that you can just push a constitutional amendment against the wishes of the Zambian people, I said earlier, is actually to commit constitutional coup d'etat on the Zambian people. Because the document you're going to come up with will not be reflective of what Zambians expect to be in the Constitution. A government that enjoys, or that claims to enjoy the accolades of the people, a government that claims to enjoy the approval of the people, we will listen to its people and will act on the basis or in accordance with what its people have said. This government has taken a very stubborn stance, especially in the area of the rule of law and in the area of constitutionalism. I can even demonstrate with what is happening with the Lands and Deeds Registry Act. Like Honorable Kafaya has said, they've just woken up from slumber and decided they are going to undertake a piecemeal amendment to the Lands and Deeds Registry Act. For everybody who knows, the Lands and Deeds Registry Act provides for a regime of how we are supposed to hold land in the country, of how we're supposed to possess certificates of title or title deeds to land in the country, and how that statute itself says a certificate of title is absolute evidence of ownership of land. And how that very statute says it is only the High Court that is conferred with power or jurisdictional power to decide whether a certificate of title can be cancelled or not. And that act provides for instances when the High Court can exercise that power. Now, this is a historical position. And Zambians may not know that that provision in the law, this year, 2015, clocks 810 years from the time it was first enacted in the UK. Anybody who has studied land law will tell you that in 1214, the year 1214 to 1215, England was about to explode into a civil war that was going to have engulfed the whole Europe. And it was because of land. And it was because of how to hold titled land. And that civil strife took place for between 2014 and 1214 and 1215. And in June of 1215, the King of England capitulated under weight of the people who were not citizens. It was a serfdom at that time. They were called subjects. The subjects revolted against the king. And one of the reasons why they revolted was they were not happy with the land tenure system in England at that time. And a compromise was struck in what lawyers will tell you is called the Magna Carta, which was signed in 1215. And that Magna Carta guaranteed the ownership of land by people who were subjects of the king that time, to the exclusion of the king. Because now it was felt that the king was usurping the powers to own land. And the people were now demanding we must be allowed to own land to the exclusion of the king. And that's why they came up with what is called the fee simple, land tenure system in the UK, where you own land yourself as a family, absolutely. This is a clause that has survived 810 years up to now. And in every country which is part of the Commonwealth, this is the source of why we have title deeds to land in this country and elsewhere in the Commonwealth. And this is why it is now demanded of government that you cannot cancel a title deed for any citizen in the country unless you take the matter up before the courts of law. And our system here has a provision in the Lands and Deeds Registry Act itself which mandates only the High Court to have power to cancel the certificates of title. The reason is very simple. Certificates of title are issued by the Registrar of Lands and Deeds. And before a certificate of title can be issued to a citizen, you have to go through a rigorous process of proving to the registrar that you are entitled to that land, either by applying to the Commissioner of Lands or when I buy a property from Mr. Kafwaya. We won't just exchange title deeds at home. There's a process that is provided for in the Lands and Deeds Registry Act and other laws that allows for me to transfer or for Kafwaya to transfer title to myself. And the registrar sits at the center of ensuring that everything that the law is provided for is complied with before a title is transferred to somebody else. And this is the reason why in the Lands and Deeds Registry Act in section 33 and 34, the title, once it is transferred to Mr. Kafwaya, he becomes the absolute owner of that land, subject only to what is contained in the memorials of the certificate of title. And if there's anybody who wants to question Mr. Kafwaya's right to own that land, you must go to the High Court and get a determination from the court whether Mr. Kafwaya correctly obtained that land or not. But to wake up today, as government, without consulting people, and suggest to the people that we are going to give the registrar powers to cancel your certificate of title, it raises a very question Mr. Kafwaya was speaking about here, that maybe there's something more than meets the eye that has caused this government to take such a draconian measure against its own citizen. And you see, what is worrying me about the UPND is this. The UPND had no manifesto. The UPND never came to you, Zambians, and told you, if you vote for us, we are going to do this and this and this and that. They had nothing. The UPND had a 10-point plan, which is very different from a manifesto. And the 10-point plan was just created as a response to the Patriotic Front manifesto. Because the PF was setting itself very, very well. They also needed to compete. And they had no time to roll out a manifesto. They came up with a 10-point plan. If you go to the 10-point plan, you will not find any clause in there saying one day they woke up and say the registrar can cancel your certificate of title. What the UPND is doing today and what they said they're going to do when they're opposition are completely different positions. And I don't know how we are going to assess them at the end of the day, whether they have complied with what the promises Zambian people, of course, most of the promises that given were castles in the air and nothing has happened. But this is very critical. You can't allow a government, at momentary whims and caprices to just wake up and say, we are going to amend the law. The registrar can grab your certificate of title. If you want, you can appeal to the minister. You even politicize the process of land tenure in the country. From the time of the watershed speech that Kaunda read in 1975, politicians have never been allowed to participate in the land tenure system. That's why in this country, the land is vested in the president who owns it for and on behalf of the people of Zambia. And when it comes to land administration, the president designates a commissioner of lands as is designated to manage the Lands and Deeds Registry, and is the one who's responsible for issuing certificates of title. The registrar is, for lack of a better term, is a very clerical office. The only thing you need to establish is that everything was followed, this title must be transferred, or this person has applied properly, give me a certificate of title. And today you want to wake up and tell the nation that this registrar is going to be given power to cancel a certificate of title. UPND, think again. You are managing people. You see, and among us people that hold land, there are rich people who can afford anything that you would like to introduce, and poor people who can't afford all these things that you want to introduce. The poor people are going to be the ones who are going to suffer the brunt in the event that you implement this position. When I was thinking that maybe the UPND is right, I told myself, okay, be a lawyer, research, find out, how do they do it in other countries? To my shock, I established that we will be the only country in the whole world that will have a system where a certificate of title can be cancelled by a registrar of lands. Because I carried out a survey, and I can share some of the findings that I've got with you in the survey that I've carried out. I looked at 6 different countries. I looked at Kenya, I looked at Botswana, I looked at Zimbabwe, I looked at South Africa, I looked at Malaysia, I looked at India. In all these countries, including New Zealand, the registrar does not have any powers to cancel certificates of title. If anybody has a grievance regarding the authenticity of ownership of a certificate of title, you are supposed to go to the High Court for that determination. And there's a reason why, like I said earlier, this is an 810-year-old rule, but also it has been refined it has been worked on, it has been improved to make sure that land titles are held by people that genuinely are entitled to them. But the other reason is that, you see, the High Court, in determining whether Mr. Kafaya's certificate of title is supposed to be cancelled, will also address itself to what do we do with the house Mr. Kafaya built on the title. Because the certificate of title is just a piece of paper, but there's a house there. The High Court has that mandate to ensure that that is also addressed at the same time. And this is the reason why we have difficulties with this proposed amendment to the law, and we would like to call upon Zambians to hold the UPND to account. This is not a piece of legislation that you must pass in this country, especially if you promise Zambian people good governance. This is a departure from good governance. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Let me recognize the presence of our national chairperson.
I need to run off. I'm going to the committee for this very paper.
Okay. Let me recognize the presence of the national chairperson. This is not from the Chawinga function, which doesn't even exist, but it's from the Main Patriotic Front. And I welcome you. I know that you have come to support. You have come to support our presser. Allow me at this point to more like summarize what has been said, especially bearing in mind that Honorable Tembo, who was supposed to be the summarizer, as a task that is supposed to perform at his committee. We know that this presser has addressed different issues, some of them constitutional, some of them to do with the laws that are coming forth. At this point, I think let me start with the funeral that is in South Africa, where we are mourning. I know that there are a lot of people that are not mourning with us, who are busy mocking us every day. I think the council and other people have indicated that we will respect the position of the family. We know that those who are arguing on social media are bringing in the name of PF, and they're saying it's PF that is influencing that. But I think you should also know that whereas President Lungu belonged to a political party, he also belonged to a family. That should be respected. And we are a very civil political party that has just, even when we are injured, the way we have been injured throughout, when we lost power in 2021, we have always been rushing to the courts. We have not taken any other route, like some of the people want to bring temptation to us. But we have confined ourselves to the civil way of doing things. We know, for instance, that there has been an argument on the issue of the benefits for the president, the former president's benefit. And it's a contradiction that some of the former presidents, vice former presidents, are getting benefits outside the law. I think Honorable Kafua did demonstrate. Yes, all of them, we are told they are getting benefits outside the law. We know, for instance, that among the former presidents, we have Nevas Mumba, who is politically active and is a mouthpiece in certain areas for the UPND. If you go at his house, you find that he's regarded by state police. What condition facilitate Nevas Mumba to be guarded? Which law is helping Nevas Mumba to be guarded? It is in the same country where we had a former president who has died in South Africa, deprived of benefits, when a vice president who is not even covered by the law is facilitated. We know that in the former President's Act, out of the 11, those conditions that are 11, where the president is supposed to benefit, before we reach where the spouse is supposed to benefit, it is only one that is being respected, that of burial. The rest have been thrown in the wind. Who has taken task to explain what will happen to the other 11 and the like? We have heard pedestrian statements concerning the same. We know that, for instance, I'm mesmerized by the lecture that we have faced so far from our council, Watsanga, who has said, "Mwebantu bakwaresa landi okonkana land act yaba mwishina lya kwa president so ngawula kalaka title ninchini president wa kupela. And then batisangabale tuwe batise contradiction that today this particular government wants to cancel the title using the route of the registrar. Na batuwe batirifunde twafumisha fye kuli balaba tusire colonize na tuishiba kwa ali mfumu ile bale itati John kula ku England eko bachira chitari favor chisanga Magna Carta, which means greater charter ile mu 1213 flowing to 1215 and number 12 what happened in there, and that's why we have gotten our law eko twako ngwele difunde edi dipona ino inensta. So the simple fee law has been existing for a longer period. Eiba kainde ichilema no lupwa lwabo nangula umukowa wabo wa UPND balefo kupela maka ukubomfya registrar atale cancelling anani. And I think this is predicted. Where on earth have we heard? We have heard Basuvja Dilaba land minister balela pafya kupokama titles before they bring this to parliament. We have also heard how Basuvja has been emphasizing ukupokama titles, and she has been saying those titles that were given by PF, it means that there was a legitimate president there who was voted for, who transferred this title to a Zambian and a Zambian. Chile piluno kweba tu once wakateka watekele potawali authorized ukupela title because state land yaba mwishinali ya kwa kateka. And when a person through that leasehold is given that particular land, it means uliomuntu uwa mupela ni kateka. Because kateka ewa pelwa maka ya kupela title in a way because kateka owns land. Nombale lomrefu ya mupeli ya maka registrar uku cancelling land ya upele kateka teka pela land. For instance, inganiwa lungu wale pela land bale pela ma title deeds ukupitira mwishinali y'abantu na trust y'abantu babapele lero musa mupele registrar wa cancelling a title. Does it make sense to you? Does that make sense to you? Then to a dictatorial proposal called Bill 7, the dictatorial proposal, everyone has refused. It is only the camp of UPND that is emphasizing. We know that many of his suggestions, including that to include with the youths, including that to include with the women, everybody has refused, including NGOCC, which represents women, because they have smelled the rat in that proposal. Ola imamamba fyokola that no ifire lyabakole defunde na kuchilapo. Even when we follow parliament, when it was supposed to be on second reading, it is only 20 days that is supposed to be there. We have not heard the speaker announce that period has been extended, but we have a ruling from the courts. Moranto bakwalesa esho turelanda pano kuchindika mafunde ya chalo. Let us respect the laws of the land. Because ngata tuchindika mafunde ya chalo mo wonse tukumanina ema tuitiro ubuntu ema tuitiro na Zambia. When you and me have gotten a national registration card as Zambians, we meet in the constitution, we meet in subsidiary laws, and the moment that is overlooked, we become closer to animals because there is no civility. For instance, by CZ to alimitambile ene wabo mshat ko 52 uko naula map ama elections ya kubwacha na kukabushi baisi zeti na muchilamo na mkwataka pitirishi too much. Today you are now talking about PF not wearing regalia in the Nanikani.